This is Adam from Kyros, and you're listening to the Progcast.
Welcome to the Progcast. I'm your host Dario, and you're listening to episode 60. I'm in the Moonbase Studios, and with me over Skype is Adam from Kyros. Hey Adam, how are you doing?
Hello. I'm good, thank you.
We like to start our episodes usually, or our interviews or talks with our guests with a little section that we like to call "What's in Your Walkman." You can probably imagine what that means. So, what have you been listening to lately?
Oh boy, what have I been listening to? I've been listening to a mix of things lately, but not a lot of prog.
Doesn't matter. We're open. We're not any.
That's good. That's what I like to hear.
Yeah,
open-minded.
Yeah.
I've been really enjoying the new Dua Lipa album. So that dropped a few weeks ago, and it's some really good pop. I really enjoy it. It's got some great production in it, some really good pop songwriting, and it's definitely up there for me.
Any specific tracks that stand out for you that we could put in the playlist even?
Oh, Future Nostalgia, the actual title track of the album, like the first track, I love it. It's fantastic. It's got such a great vibe to it, and the production is just, it's so clean. Definitely the first track.
All right. Anything else? You have?
I mean, I've had a mix of things going. So I've been listening to Poppy's new album. I don't know how many of your listeners will be familiar with Poppy, but she spent many years kind of releasing very bubblegum pop stuff, but then recently signed to Sumerian Records and is now putting out almost progressive metal type stuff.
I have actually listened to the album.
Yeah, no, I think so far it's like one of my albums of the year.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, that's those have been on heavy rotation recently.
It's been a while since I listened to it, like a couple of months already. But let me quickly check which there was one track I like. The first track I heard was like starting very, very slowly and then got really crazy towards the end. Let me check if I can find I think it was the last song on the album, Don't Go Outside.
Oh yeah. Oh man. I love that track. The way it brings back all of the melodies from earlier on in the album and just references all of that, and then just ties up the album in a really nice bow. It's great. I love it.
So should I put that as well? You're okay with that? Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now that you mentioned that, like that usual that treat of wrapping up an album with bringing back motifs and stuff that you usually associate with progressive rock.
Exactly. It's a very prog thing to do.
I've been just talking to Louis from Ebon Ivory from Australia, and they also had all these motifs going on. So yeah, that's cool. That's the second track for you. Don't Go Outside. Very, very fitting for these times as well.
Yeah, exactly. Very much.
Yeah, as I don't know what I will be listening to in 2 weeks when this will be coming out.
Talking into the future.
When I was preparing for this episode, I remembered actually the first time I got in contact with you guys, with Kyros, and that was a couple of years ago, and you were on tour with Spocksbeard and Special Providence. And I saw
good times.
I saw that package here in Augsburg. That's close to Munich, and I think it was like one day or so after you guys actually announced the name change of the band name.
Yeah, it was a complicated time for us because we weren't anticipating changing the name at that time specifically, but we kind of had to. Like everything lined up in such a way that we had to, and we in the middle of that tour, whilst that tour was happening, we were also going through the whole parting of ways with GEP as well.
Yeah.
So that whole second half of 2015 was a very stressful time.
Okay, I see. Yeah, but it was a great tour. 3 cool bands, and it just happened to be like 2 days ago was the 1st of June, and that's always the day I go back to classic Spock's Beard song June.
Oh yeah,
Came
yeah,
upon us much too soon.
yeah.
And adding to that, I also listened to I think the tour was the first tour with Ted Leonard on vocals, if I remember correctly, or he was like pretty new in the band,
I think it was
or the
the
second
second
tour.
European tour because I remember seeing them on the first one with Ted back in 2014, I
Yeah,
think it was. Oh, no, or 2013. I think it was 2013.
I think I saw them at on the night of the Prog Festival on Lorelei before, and then but I think that tour was for the Brief Nocturnes album, or was it? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it
So
was. Yeah.
from the Brief Nocturnes and whatever the rest of the album title,
Dreamless Sleep, I
Dreamless
think.
Sleep, yeah, something like
Yeah.
that. The not quite epic, but yeah, the big track at the end with a monster guitar solo waiting for me. And as a
Yeah.
third entry, I'm gonna put the Special Providence hit single of sorts, Lazy Boy, to
Great.
reminisce
Great.
those times.
I missed that tour. It was a very good tour, touring with Special Providence and Spock's Beard. It was full of great memories. A really good time.
That's amazing. That's super cool. I also had a great time, as I said, but that was like 5 years ago or something,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. 5 years ago.
and a lot has happened in the meantime.
Mm.
Yeah, what's going on in the Kyros camp? A lot I have
Oh, a
seen
lot.
and
It's
heard.
been a busy few years. So we well, I mean, even then, if we go back to 2015, we hadn't even released Vox Humana yet.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
so at that point, I remember distinctly, we wanted to we wanted to release something for the Spock's Beard tour, to fund the album, to fund Vox Humana. And I have this funny story of literally a couple weeks before the tour started, we came up with the idea of, okay, well, we're in the process of parting ways from GEP. What if we ask them for the masters, and then we put out like a little teaser kind of EP for the album for Vox Humana. But we then very quickly learned that to be able to have a physical CD pressed, we would need to deliver the completed files the next day after we realized, like after we came up with this idea. So we only had like 24 hours to basically mix an EP
Oh shit.
and then send it to the pressing plant. So we got it. Yeah, we did it. We drove down to Southampton to pick up the files from Rob's studio down in Southampton, and then we mixed this EP. So this is the beta EP, which you can still get actually, is on our store.
Ah, cool.
And we mixed that entire thing overnight. We pulled an all-nighter, and then Robin took the masters the next morning at 7 a.m. and drove with the physical CD burning of the masters to the CD pressing plant and delivered it to them in person. And we got a batch of the CDs pressed and then delivered to us in time for the Spock's Beard tour. And all of the CDs that we sold of that, the beta EP, went on to fund Vox Humana. But
Cool.
I mean, that's all long in the past now. And there's the previous album, because we've got another album coming up. But yeah, so that's I always find that story hilarious because it's just sheer absurdity of mixing a whole EP in just one night with no sleep. Um, but yeah,
Absolutely.
since then we've well, definitely a lot has happened. We signed on to White Star Records, and
Yes.
that's been really good working with those guys. And
It's a label from John Mitchell, right?
yes, yeah, John Mitchell and Chris Hillman, and they're both. Yeah, I mean, we've had more contact with Chris because he deals with the business side and
Okay, I
kind of
see.
the admin
Sure.
and the boring, businessy side of things.
Yeah.
Whereas John handles more the kind of creative, like advice
Yeah.
and production advice, and is yeah. But yeah, on the whole, it's been fantastic so far. I'd say we've had no issues, no complaints. They've been a real joy to work with, and in terms of Celexa Dreams itself, the album, the whole thing was pretty much written and recorded before we even approached White Star. So for them, it was like they received a complete package. So it's kind of a win-win for everyone, really. And it just, yeah, they really enjoyed the album, both Chris and John, and that's where it all kicked off.
So, but Vox Humana was not on. Yeah, was not on White Star Records yet.
No, we put out Vox Humana independently.
Yeah, but that's amazing. Given that, like, it's a huge double whatever concept album,
Yeah, it was
and
a lot of work to put that out independently, and I would not recommend anyone do that when it's a big, massive double album. And not only are you releasing it independently, but you also mixed it yourself, recorded most of it yourself, and also you don't have much of a team behind you, so you're having to do everything yourself. And that's one of the downsides with how we did the whole thing of releasing it independently, was we'd have to do one thing at a time. We'd focus on this thing, then when that thing was done, we'd focus on this thing. Whereas now, whilst the label are taking care of the promo of our upcoming album, we've got our manager who's dealing with a lot of like the press things and the social media stuff and organizing things, and then the band can focus on the creative stuff. So I've been working on videos for Kyros singles that we've been putting out recently, and we'll continue to be putting out videos for future tracks on the album. And we've also already started writing the next album as well. So hopefully that isn't like a massive 3-year wait like it has been.
Yeah, you mentioned your video stuff, but before we delve deeper into all things Celexa Dreams and all that stuff, you're also doing videos for other bands, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so I, as well as the band itself. So I there's 3 main things that I do in life that I focus on in terms of kind of work-related things. That's the band itself, Kyros, and all of my energy that I put into that, whether that be the writing or any of the kind of everything that comes with the band.
Sure.
And then I'm also a studio engineer, so I work at a recording studio just down the road from here, and that's kind of my main day job.
All right.
And then on the side, kind of like a side job, I also make music videos for bands and artists, because I do a lot of animation and CG as well as live action filming, and so I that's how I've been keeping busy over the past few years. And I'm actually working on a couple of music videos at the moment for another band called Tribasic, and so that's what I do.
So I think it was when I talked with my Progcast buddy Randy last year in one of the episodes about Ilo's video that you did for which song was it? Was the first single Reanimate?
Was it? Yeah, Reanimate. Yeah, that's it. I don't know how I forgot because I spent a good like a month or so on that.
I think it was at that point where we, of course, I knew that it was you doing that video, but that reminded me that like a couple of weeks before, or maybe 2 or 3 months before, we already had another video that we were watching together on the show. That was done by you and your colleagues or something, but we didn't remember, and we had so many mentions, so many bands and videos in the Progcast that I never had the time to check back which band or which video it was. So it would be funny. Maybe we can find out what other videos you did last year.
Well, I actually, seeing as I'm at my computer, and before this call, I was working on a video, so I have my list of project files here. So what, videos from last year?
Yeah, I mean, we could be mistaken,
see.
but I'm pretty sure we had one.
I put out a video for I Am the Morning. Maybe it's that one?
Yeah, could be.
Song of Psych for I Am the Morning, because they put out a new album last year, The Bell.
Yeah.
And I did a video for them. Either that or maybe Lines in the Sky. I did a video for them as well. The
no, that
Nashville band
doesn't ring a bell actually.
Or maybe
a bell.
The Bell, yeah. Or there's Lebate Scarp as well, American band, or Not Otherwise Specified. That's another video I did.
I think.
Don't know if any of those ring a bell.
I'm pretty sure it was I Am the Morning. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that was a good one to work on. It was an animated one, like a 2D kind of top-down paper cutout kind of style.
Yeah, no, I remember it was like with a bird, right?
Oh, that was Mariana's video. January. Yes.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah, that was something else.
Yeah, so Mariana from I Am the Morning, she approached me again to work on a video for her own solo album.
Yeah, that was this year, right? At the beginning
of this year. Yeah, like so that was January, February.
Yeah, that was with the bird. Yeah, right.
Yes, yeah. For where is it? For Still Life by Mariana.
Beautiful. All right, I'm gonna check out all those videos again. Yeah, so going back to Kyros, that's why we're here today, right? And your upcoming album, Celexa Dreams, it's gonna be out on May 19th. You have
June 19th.
I'm still in May because let me tell you something quickly. I'm confusing the months lately a lot. I mean, we all know that time has been weird.
Time is all melting away right now.
Yeah,
it's
just... that for once. And I was actually just between the two interviews I'm recording today. I was publishing the best of what's hot list for the month of May. That I wanted to publish yesterday, but didn't for obvious reasons. And yeah, there was like your 2 videos were in it, and also 2 Haken videos that were released in May, and a couple of other amazing videos. Yeah, but that brings me back to the June 19th. You get big company on that release date.
Oh God, it's been. I assume you're alluding to Haken's album.
Yeah, and also there's Protest the Hero, for example.
Protest the Hero, yeah. It's it's literally all I've been talking about with a few people over the past few days when it comes to anything related to Kyros is like, oh, are you guys worried about Haken releasing their album on June 19th as well now? And you know, I would be lying if I said I wasn't annoyed.
I was just talking with Louis from Ebon Ivory, and they are releasing their album this week, so on June 5th, and that was the original release date of Haken, so
Yeah.
they're like,
So they're actually benefited.
yeah, they actually their album, they plan to bring out their album, The Long Dream One, out on the same day as Caligula's Horse album was supposed to drop. But they're friends with them, and so they talked about it. And as soon as they heard that the new Caligula's Horse album, Rise Radiant, is going to be released on that day, they said, "Okay, we need to move our album."
I wish we could do that, but it's too close now.
Of course. And and another one. Also, I'm gonna most probably have on the Progcast is Jahan from Tiberius. I've been talking to him over the last week, on and off, and they accidentally had their singles released at the same Fridays as the Haken singles.
Oh man.
It's a tough competition. There's so much good music going on right now.
Everyone's been working on stuff, and now that it's like, especially with the lockdown, people are really pushing their albums now, and everyone's got time to promote their releases because we don't have tours to do. We don't have gigs to plan for. We don't have any logistics to put in place. So it's like, okay, put all of our energy into social media and online promotion, and everyone seems to be, pushing their releases hard. And I think we got unlucky with our release date. But
talking about playing live, not being able to play live, and also the lockdown affecting the way the focus on what bands are doing. You guys came up with a pretty cool series of live streaming events, actually. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, of course. Originally we put together a online live stream, our isolation gig, as we've been calling them. Originally, the first one was just a one-off because we thought, oh, why not? Everyone else is doing it. Let's do it, and do it in a way that is very us, with the humor and with the way we present it. And we always felt like when we saw other bands do it, that we could bring up the production value a bit and present it in a way that was it just looked very cool to watch. And it went down really well. And even Haken actually shared it on their page, and that brought over a lot of people. And it was fantastic. And we thought, okay, I think we're motivated enough that we can do a second one. So we did a second one, and it went really well as well. We got a good response, and it seems to do a good job of bringing new people to us who either share, from other people who have shared the stream, or have just stumbled on our page for one reason or another, and then they watch the video and they get to see a whole selection of songs, as well as keeping the people who have already been following us interested and wanting to, say, buy our merch or even send us a tip into our little PayPal tip jar thing. And it's been really good, really, really good. And now we thought, why not make it into a series for pretty much the rest of the year? Because the lockdown, although some countries are easing on the lockdown and some places are better than others, we know that gigging is not going to return to normality anytime soon. Yeah. And it could be until next year that we see normal gigging return. And we thought, let's take advantage of that. Let's keep this thing going and put one out every month. And I think people will really appreciate that. And it'll be a good opportunity to promote our new material as well as all of our previous stuff. And by the end of our upcoming online tour, which is what we're kind of calling it, we pretty much will have played our entire discography.
So you streamed 3 of these events so far, right?
So far we've put out 3, and we'll be putting out our next one on the 23rd or 22nd. I could be completely wrong with that. But it's part of a series that we're calling Celexa Dreams to play on the Celexa Dreams album title. And it's just our way of saying, okay, we can't tour, we can't do any gigs, so let's bring the gigs to you via the internet. And
so next one is going to be a couple of days after the album release.
Yes, so actually I've got the poster up now. It's on the 26th of June.
Okay,
and
so a week after.
Yes, so what we're planning on doing is, for that one, we're going to be playing the shorter songs from Celexa Dreams.
Yeah.
And maybe a song or two from an older album. And then the one after that, which is in July, the 17th of July, we'll play the longer tracks from Celexa Dreams. And so those two streams will be our album promo streams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We still haven't talked really about the album, I think.
Yeah. Well,
I think there's a whole lot to talk about with Celexa Dreams. Last night I listened to it for the first time, and
cool.
just now between the two interviews I listened to it for the second time.
Amazing.
And even though I knew the 3 singles beforehand, I was when I clicked play and it started, I was like, oh damn, even though I know the singles, I didn't expect it to be that much 80s. Which was a cool thing, because I was like, okay. I mean, yesterday was a weird day with all that's going on. Of course, in the United States and all that you can see online, and that was just like, okay, this was just such a weird day, and now I'm suddenly in a happy mood. So thank you for that.
I'm glad that the music put you in a happy place, because it's the least we can do.
So yeah, I think of course the singles already showed that to a big extent, actually. But yeah, the whole album is actually very much in that vein, and that also sets it apart sonically quite from what you've been doing before. I mean, it's not completely new, but the focus is very, very, very much on this kind of sound aesthetic.
Yeah,
right?
it was very much a conscious decision, because I think the one thing that I keep noticing over the past few years is this massive resurgence in 80s production in music. But the thing is, I've not noticed this style of 80s production as much as I have, say, the retro wave kind of genre, which is a massive internet phenomenon, and there's a lot of artists out there that do it very well, like Kavinsky, or I'm not too familiar with that scene, but I know that that's a whole thing in of itself. But I've never really tapped into that kind of 80s aesthetic.
Yeah,
I'm more a fan of the Tears for Fears kind of thing, or Duran Duran, or 80s Genesis or 80s Rush, taking that kind of thing and modernizing it and Kyrosizing it, putting in the Kyros kind of stamp on it. And so that's why it sounds less like... I think a good example of someone who's gone down a different path is Muse, which with Simulation Theory, their most recent album. That's more going down the retro wave path. And a lot of the time when people say they're doing an 80s kind of album, they think of the retro wave thing rather than this kind of thing, I think.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, the big gated drums, I think anyone will think of that when they think of an 80s inspired album. There's plenty of gated, massive drums on this album, on Celexa Dreams. But there's not that much in terms of, if any, of that kind of retro wave thing going on.
Yeah.
That was very much a conscious decision. But the rest of it is just, I think it's just is a result of all of the collective tastes in the band just evolving over the past few years. It's been a long time since Vox Humana, and not just our tastes evolving, but circumstances evolving as well. With Vox Humana, we all were much closer together geographically. In fact, most of the band, well, not most of the band, but half of the band lived under the same roof because we went to uni together.
Yeah.
But since then, we've graduated from uni. Joey's back in the States. We've got different members of the band that are dotted all over the country. So it's very much an entirely different way of working for this album compared to Vox Humana. Mm-hmm. And I think you can hear that in its sound. It's a much more... How do I put it? It's a much more diverse sounding album, I think, in its styles and its genres and influences, but still has a few things that weave it together.
Yeah, you mentioned the long songs, so I have it open here. Wait a sec, where do I have it open? Here. And yeah, there's definitely the 14-minute In Vanta Black.
Oh yes, In Vanta Black, yeah.
And Technology Killed the Kids 3.
Yeah.
Like the heavy riff at the end was quite surprising. I thought,
that's
okay, yeah,
they deciding to go prog metal for that portion of the album. There's a lot of surprises there, and as like long-time listeners of the band will of course see that Technology Killed the Kids already had like predecessors songs. So that brings us maybe a little bit to the themes and concepts, if there's such a thing, and how it ties in with the previous albums, and how the songs if they're connected inside the album, like within the album. There was this album was written almost as a direct response to our experience of that time that I mentioned earlier, 2015, 2016. It was, for me especially, I was going through a lot in terms of just where my head was back then. And the stress of Vox Humana and everything that was tied to that had a profound effect on me and my mental health. And this is something that I'm normally very private about when talking about it, but recently I've been trying to get away from being so private about it, because it shouldn't be a taboo thing to talk about mental health and how you're feeling, and that's a healthy thing. This is something that everyone should be comfortable talking about.
Absolutely.
And back then, it is one of those things that I thought, okay, I need to write about all of this. And the first track that was written for the album was 2 Frames of Panic, which was our 3rd single that came out recently.
Yeah.
And actually back then, that track was called Celexa Dreams. That was originally going to be a title track. But we decided against that. And it ended up evolving into the track that it is now. And I think that broke a lot of new ground for me, because I'd never written about my personal experiences in terms of my mental health, about that kind of thing. I'd never really gone into that much detail before through songwriting.
Yeah.
And it felt good. It felt good to talk about it. So I think the natural evolution was that another song came along and I would write lyrics that were more along that line as well, and then another song, and then fast forward a couple of years and we've got a whole album where there is very much a theme to it, and that is, it's a collection of experiences and short stories based around mental health and the effects of the things that happen around us and how that they can have a profound effect on us. And that can range from, for example, 2 Frames of Panic is about my experiences with medication and antidepressants, and I was put on antidepressants back then. And the lyrics delve into my experiences on what the dreams were like, because I had some really weird dreams when I was on that medication.
Okay, yeah.
And then after that, off the back of that, that's where the album title came from. And then other tracks like Invanta Black is all about kind of coming to terms with our own faults and realizing our mannerisms and our personality traits, and how certain traits can trigger certain neurotic behaviors, and just coming to terms with our own mental health, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then In Motion is about, I mean, it literally hits the whole theme of what I was going through in 2016 right on the head, and that was just being so burned out, working ridiculous hours and not sleeping that much, to the point that you completely burn out.
I can very much relate to that. I had similar times in my life.
I'm sure everyone has a similar experience of just burning themselves out and then learning a very valuable lesson from that.
Wow, yeah, deep thoughts there, and but I think it's amazing and it's beautiful that at least what I can gather from what I can see from from our little scene, if there's such a thing in the prog scene, it's more, at least there, it's more and more normal to be open about and outspoken about these things. Yeah, I really like that, and especially with music that can be cathartic for both the composer and performers, as well as the audience that is listening. Just Leprous Pitfalls from last year, for example, that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's.
I really don't know where I would be if it wasn't for the fact that I can get my thoughts out in this way, be able to write music and write lyrics and apply them to music. It's a very, as you say, it is very cathartic, and it does a lot of good. And also, being able to discover music and how certain pieces of music can have a positive effect on you. Yeah. It's, I feel very grateful to be in a position where even the thought of anything that we put out having that effect on someone else is like just an incredible feeling. It's absolutely incredible to think that something that was born out of my own experiences, turning this thing into a thing that other people can enjoy is very, very motivating.
That's awesome. That's I really love that. That direction I see in our scene, if there's such a thing. But for me, it is, and it's good. It's great, and I see it as a lot of positive change. I think that we're reaching the end of this interview. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for all the insights into the Kyros universe and
You're very welcome.
into the Celexa Dreams.
Yes.
All the best for the album release, and also for the streaming plans. All the streams that you've done so far are still on YouTube, right?
They're all on YouTube and on our Facebook page as well. You can always go onto the videos section and watch them there as well.
All right, very cool. Yeah, actually, the last one I couldn't. Last week, it was 1.5 weeks ago was the third one, and on Saturday, and I was watching Green Carnation from Norway, and so I was watching. I watched the Isolation gig number 3 on Sunday evening. I think,
Nice.
or Monday, whenever I found the time.
We originally wanted to put that one out on Friday, but then IQ announced their stream
Oh
at the
yeah,
exact same time, so we thought, okay, we'll move it to Saturday.
on that Friday, I actually had also 3 or 4 other streams apart from IQ.
Yeah,
I don't remember what was it. Anyway, there's so many streams going on,
I know. Yeah,
but yeah, that means the scene is healthy and the
yeah,
musicians
that's good.
keep creative and busy, and yeah, it's a great way to also connect with the fans and like stay relevant
Absolutely, yeah,
in a
absolutely.
sense. Maybe one last question or one last thought that I want to
Yeah, go
put
for it.
out there, and see what you think about it. That's one thing that I've also been discussing with my Progcast buddy Randy concerning these streams is that we had the feeling once there was like the market was like so quickly oversaturated with streams, and most of them were and are still are for free. We had like, or I think Randy came up with the concern that maybe just like back then when streaming started and suddenly so much music was available to them without like paying for every single track or album, that there might be the risk that the audience gets like complacent in a way, and also maybe will feel entitled to free streams in the future. I get
Hmm.
that, like, as a small band, it doesn't feel right, maybe, or you think people would never really like pay like a ticket for our stream. And on the other hand, if we might be confronted with the possibility that the ability to tour or play live will not be coming back for a much longer time. That yeah, we I think artists definitely should yeah, think about that and try and see to how to navigate this. You know, you get what I mean?
Yeah, no, I do. I know what you mean. It's tough because having to factor in that this could be the case for the foreseeable future, coupled with the fact that gigging is definitely one of the primary ways that we would bring in the band's income.
Yeah,
It's kind of tough to justify like the idea of doing it for free, but at the same time, there's definitely a lot of pros in our situation
yeah,
versus cons. Given the fact that we're a new band, and also given the fact that we have the time and the energy, somewhat.
yeah,
I'll say somewhat because it does take a lot of time and energy to pull those together
yeah.
and
Can imagine.
coordination. But I think we're more in a position that we're wanting to lift people's spirits
Yeah,
through
that's
this
beautiful.
time, give people live music, and give people an opportunity to discover us. And if it puts a smile on their face, then great. And if they don't enjoy it, then, they can scroll down, keep scrolling. And it's like, we like the idea of that, we like the
Yeah,
idea of popping up on someone's newsfeed on Facebook and then them listening for a few seconds and thinking, "Oh, what's this?" And then next thing they've purchased our entire back catalogue on Bandcamp or on our big cartel store, and that has happened as a result of these live streams, and
great. Yeah,
it's
that's how it
it's
should be, and I think that's also something. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, or also maybe I'm reading too much into the prog scene. But I do think that the prog audience is definitely one to buy more physical
Yeah, definitely.
things
Absolutely.
for once, and I think the fear that Randy voiced, that people might start feeling entitled to free live streams at one point, that was maybe more. I think that would be more of a bigger issue for like bigger bands, more in the mainstream. I
Yeah,
personally
I think
I
it was.
don't see that in the progressive
Yeah, I think
circles.
there's a different dynamic in the progressive music scene. I think fans are very, very loyal in this scene,
Yeah,
and they're more than willing to part ways with their cash to support bands that they like, which is amazing to see in this day and age when most other scenes, there's barely any money there, and it's all based on streaming, and even with merch and ticket sales, that's kind of it, and it's not that much. But for a band like us, who are still very small, to be able to invest all of that money back into the band and it keeps us going, is incredible, I don't think there's many bands at this level in other scenes that can say the same thing, because the fans are incredibly loyal, and I think they know that that's how you support up and coming bands. You invest in them and you keep them going, and you buy their music in the best possible way, rather than just streaming it. You buy a physical CD or a vinyl or whatever, or buy the merch. It helps a lot.
awesome. I think that was a great last thought to elaborate on a little bit here, and also a beautiful view of the progressive music scene that I definitely share. And
Yes, it's a very special community.
it is, and I'm super. I think I'm not exaggerating if I say that I'm happy each and every day that I'm part of it, and that I can be part of it, and because there's so many beautiful people out there that you can connect with through the music, or that you got to know only because of the music.
Absolutely.
On that note, all the best to you, Adam. Thanks for being on the Progcast.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Good luck for the album release and the streaming concerts once again. Hope to see you on the road again at some point in the future.
Yes, fingers crossed.
Otherwise, I'm just gonna watch you on whatever screen is available. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. Stay safe. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Listen to amazing music, as you always do. And don't forget to subscribe and whatnot. And also check out the Spotify playlist that I'm gonna post in the article and everywhere on the socials. See you next week.
The Progcast is a production of Stuus Media and is recorded at the Moonbase Studios in Munich. It is produced by Randy M. Salo, Janine Stengel-Lewis, Blake Lewis, Kai Metzner, and Dario Albrecht. Our theme music is by This Is Not an Elephant.